come down for another session. I've turned up I'm in the same swim as what I was in last time. Where we was fishing last week, I noticed like there's an area just to the right of where I've been fishing where I seen a couple of fish show. So what I've come down today, before I chuck out, I've had a chuck around with a marker float in the general area to try and see if there's anything out there. After about 5 casts, I was like just getting 4 foot, 4 foot, 4 foot. Then like I've just found an area like 7 foot, which is you know, sort of 3 foot difference. That could be the difference between catching and not. So the importance of using a marker float when you turn up, especially if you're going to put some bait in, like, you know, if you're going to put some bait in, you want to get yourself sorted on your right spot, so that, because you can't take it out once you put it in. And you know, like now I know that I might be lying out. I ain't got to chuck that marker out again, because like I've only got to chuck to the same mark on the horizon, hit my clip, and I'm back in the same feature again. So which like it's best to get your markering done and that at the start of the session, so that you know all your disturbance is done then. The same thing with the spod rod. I can clip the spod up to the distance, and then I can just like cast a couple of spods out to the same marker on the horizon, like as long as I hit the clip and like I know that I'm baiting up where I'm fishing. I've got a marker float set out there, so I'm just going to get a rod out to that marker float, and then we'll be fishing then, and we'll see how we get on. Right, I've got my 3 rods tied up ready, just to, I've just got the maggots just sat in the edge just to slow them down a little bit. I thought I'd opt for the combi link approach this week, just to just think like, you know, making that little bit of effort. Like, you know, we only had 1 bite last week, but it was on the maggots, so I thought I'd bring myself down a gallon this week and try and put a little bit in. I got my spot sorted, and like I say, I'm going to get these rods sorted and out to the spot. So I'll get a bag tied on one of these rods and get it out there. Right, so here's the rig that I'm going to chuck out. This week, same as last week, it's the same principle, like just a normal knotless knot. This week I've gone for the combi link, which incorporates like a bit of 15-pound IQ soft to that Supernatural, the 18-pound Supernatural. I found these work really well together, like, and I've caught quite a lot of fish on the maggots over the years. Like, I did start off just using sheepskin last week, which you did get a bite on, but I feel like, you know, it might be worth the effort just to get a little bit of suppler part near the hook, you know, because maggots are ever so light in the water, and I think sometimes it makes a difference. Right, I'll get a bag tied up and get that chucked out. I know the spot, I've got it clipped up to the distance, so all I've got to do is get it out there, and then we're rocking. Let's see how this goes out. I'm quite happy with that now, I've got that spot sorted, like. All that little bit of effort don't half make a difference, and it's definitely worth giving it a go. Alright, just going to get some maggots out there. I think the best way to get them out there is with a spom. These things don't get no spod spill and that, and you get them out to the spot. Alright, just filling it up now. That's that ready to chuck out. Right, I want to try and get this as close to the float as I can, so that we can get some bait in the area. Hopefully get them interested. Alright, well what I'm going to do now is chuck a normal rig out without a bag on, so I can get just behind it and clip up tight, so that I know that when I put my bag on, I'm not going to be casting around with bags all day, like, you know, trying to get onto the spot and putting bait everywhere as well. So once I get this marked the right distance, then I'll clip a bag on and chuck it to the clip. I do that quite a lot, you know. I think that, you know, it's important to sort of have your spots paced out, you know, especially so that you can get your rods back out again once you've done. Right, I'll just chuck this out and get to the right distance. I just felt it down, and we got like a nice slow drop, like got quite a bit of depth there, and you feel it hit a nice soft bottom. So I know that that's where I want to be fishing. I've got that clipped up now in the clip on me reel. So now all I've got to do is get put a PVA bag on and cast it out to the same mark, and then we know that we're fishing in the right spot. I'm just going to try and chuck it out to try and get behind that marker float, and as long as I'm behind it, I'll be in the gully. As you can see, that's just gone just behind the marker, and we're now in the gully and fishing. Right, I've just took this out of the clip where I've just cast to, and I want a marker here, so I'm going to stick a power gun marker on. I'll just fold it back on itself, through it 3 times, and then pull it tight, just like a little water knot. So get a bit of a wet, pull it tight, and there you go. I'll just trim that off, and then I've got a marker that I can cast back to the same spot every time. Job's a good one. I think like the importance of doing that is paramount, because there's no point putting bait in if you're not going to put a rod back on the spot once you get a bite, especially if you're putting a bit in, like you're fishing for multiple captures. So if there's no point in doing that if you're not going to get back on the same spot.
Right, mate.
Right, mate. Good night's fishing, wasn't it?
Yeah, man. It was mental. So I was seeing fish out towards the right, and I was laying in bed at 10 o'clock last night, thinking something's got to happen. The rods that we put out yesterday with the maggots, got the marker out, didn't I? I got a couple of rods out there. I put one to the right of it. That one ripped off with a 25-pounder at midnight. Yeah. I woke up and it's just rods just screaming off, and I ran down there and I sort of stood at the side of the rod for a second, still asleep, and it's just the reel's just screaming. So I leaned into that one, and it's sort of kiting around everywhere, and I was all in a panic, sort of still asleep, thinking, it's going to go over their matey next door. Well, you were next door, so I'm thinking it was going to go over you. So again, it a little bit more pressure, and I got it in. It was on the last minute, it sort of gone underneath the middle rod, and I got it in the net. And, my bobbin sort of just jumping up and down a little bit. So I just bit the line, and for a second I'm thinking I've got to set my stuff up for self takes and that and what have you. So I got me unhooking mat and got it wet and that, so I put it down. Next minute, the other rod that I went through sort of slowly went up and down, it didn't even pull out the clip, to be fair.
No.
It sort of pulled tight and then just sort of dropped back a little bit and pulled back up again. I knew that was a fish on because that was the one that was to the left of the marker, as you see me yesterday when I was spotting them out, and I got my rods out, they were both really tight to the marker.
They were, yeah.
So I knew that there was clearing it out. If you're getting a bite off of quite a bit of maggots, there's obviously more than one carp there, isn't there?
A lot of competition, isn't it?
But it just goes to show you, the advantages of using a marker float, I mean, I want to put that marker float out, if I hadn't seen them fish there last week, I see them fish, and I just knew that there was something there that was showing on. Yeah. Because they were showing in the same area all the time. When they're showing in the same area all the time, they're either feeding on the bottom or they're in an area, a feature of some sort that's holding them there. Something's holding them there, isn't it? So, after 5 casts, feeling nothing, but then, bosh, you found what the feet, where they are. That's, as I was so confident on that to get a bite, once I got them maggots out, he said, they just love them, don't they?
So when you come down this session, you wanted everything to be bang on, didn't you? We've seen the fish out there, last week, and showing, and you were sure that there was a feature out there. So essentially you wanted to find that feature, bang on it, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then you wanted to bait to it, spot on, and basically you wanted to get your baited rig and your bag out there, bang on the same area. So you have to be very particular about your fishing, don't you?
Yeah. What I did then was once I got me one of my rods clipped up on the spot, I sort of put a stick in either end of a rod, laid a rod down on the floor, put one on the butt section and one on the tip section,
12
foot apart, and then sort of wrap my rig round one end, and then sort of up and down, count how many times you go up and down. That way, you know exactly how many feet you're fishing.
We saw yesterday that you got everything absolutely bang on, hadn't you?
Yeah.
And you baited bang on, and you were extremely confident on it, and you basically thought, you know, you actually said to me, I'm getting a bite on that, like,
Yeah.
and it's rare to hear you like that bubbling with confidence, you know. But you knew you was going to get a bite, didn't you?
I did, yeah, and the reason for that is because everything did fall into place. Like, you know, I think, like, you know, I got me float out there in that spot, and that spot, it like I say, the fish were showing there for 2 weeks. So there's no reason why, if I put something in there that they like eating, they're not going to eat it. You know, I couldn't see no reason why I wouldn't get a bite.
And it's funny with the maggots as well. It's almost like, you know, up until this point, most people have been catching on like choddies with like a kilo of boilies, like throwing sticked around, and everyone's been catching on that.
Yeah.
But like we said the last time, your mate had a result like on the old maggots, and it like kind of gave you a little thought, brought them down here, and that's basically been the bait on the day. I mean, all joking aside, we joke about it sometimes, but you know, if you have to put maggots on to get that bite,
yeah, mate.
then
I mean, you just do what you got to do, don't you? I mean, like, the way how I see it is like that lake where he's been catching all them fish from. You can use other baits, and you've been able to use other baits, and they've been using other baits and not doing that well on, like sweet corn even. You know, I mean, sweet corn catches them everywhere, but there's doing the odd fish, but nothing major. And then all of a sudden, like, as soon as they put maggots on, they're catching like 15 fish and that, you know, in a session. It's like right result time, like, you know. And I think like that, it shows me that it ain't a bad time to use them. Do you know what I mean? That's why I thought I'd give them a go.
Well, I think at this time of year, you know, it's kind of like November, getting to mid-November now, and basically I think they're pre-programmed to search out food in preparation for the winter, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, they've got to survive a long, cold winter where it might be iced up, and they've got to build up their reserves, and nothing screams food better than a nice little bunch of maggots on there, really, does it? And I think they're just programmed to eat something like that. It's food and they can't resist it, basically. So in a minute you're going to have to show me what you was doing with your marker float setup, because it's something that's a bit unfamiliar to me, Martin.
Rightio, yes, no worries. Like, I think, like, everybody should have a marker float, to be fair, even you. But, you know, sometimes, like, I mean, you've been fishing a long time and you know all about feeling the lead down. You can fish effectively without a marker float, can't you?
Yeah, exactly.
But, like, unless you know what you're doing, like, you know, you're better off to use a marker float, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, like this one, I know, like, the back of my hand, I like got the old map and that, so I know pretty much far bank tree markers, now far out I need to be, so I just need to, you know, cast out my singles and my bags and that. And as long as I get that long drop, I'm fishing, simple as that. But on waters that I didn't know, I'd pretty much want to know what was out there, so I'd have to use a marker float. So right, let's crack on and show me what you're up to, Martin.
Yeah, mate.
Just going to show you a bit about my marker float that I'm using. Got a big lead. This is like a 4-ounce lead, so when you're going over gravel you can feel all the bumps and stuff. I use like a little bit of a boom of 25-pound stealth skin. It don't really matter what you use lead core or anything like that, but as long as it's nice and not stretchy, you know, because like if you put a stretchy bit of mono on, it's just a little bit to take the vibration out, you know what I mean? You want to feel everything. I use a nice big balsa wood float with a flight on the end. This goes out straight. If you ain't got the flight on the end and wobble about and that, but these are homemade, but I use these because when fishing like really weedy waters, sometimes you struggle to get the float to come up, and I think, like, yeah, I mean, you can use this on a clear lake and it'll pop up just the same as what it does on a weedy lake, but on a smaller float sometimes won't come up on a weedy lake, and I don't want to keep changing my marker float around all the time, so I just use one for all of it that works well. I use a little Korda bung thing on the end there just to stop the swivel from getting caught onto the swivel, you know, because like it would stop it from coming up. A bead works the same though, to be fair. I put a ring swivel on because, like, I want as much movement on this as possible so that the float comes up as easy as pie, because if it don't, then, you know, you're going to be like, one time it'll come up and then the other times it won't, and your accuracy is going to be down, so your accuracy needs to be bang on. And now this is attached to braid. You've got to use braid with a marker float, like I said but earlier. Any mono or anything like that will just take out the vibrations or anything that you want to be feeling for. So I've got a nice braid on there that will do the job. Goes through to this strong rod now. a lot of people, you know, some people go for like softer rods for marker float fishing, thinking that you're going to feel more than that. That's totally the opposite, and like the stiffer the rod, the better. I mean, if you had a broomstick handle, you think about it. You got a broomstick handle and you've got no braid on and that, and you're pulling over gravel. You're going to feel absolutely everything, and that's what you're trying to feel for. So, you know, like a stiff rod is definitely the best way forward. I'm just going to wet this out now. Like I say, I think it's a bit on the shallow side, so I'm not expecting it to take too long to hit the bottom. But I'll have a chuck. Right, I felt that hit the bottom. It felt quite shallow. So what I'm doing now is just tightening up the access braid down to the float, just to make sure that I can, you know, it's all going in a straight line. Now, as you can see, so that's just pulled into silt. Started off a little bit tap of gravel, then it's just pulled into a bit of silt. But it's still a bit of silt actually. Now it's back into gravel again. So that silty bit, that wouldn't be a bad place to put a bait. But you can feel every stone, like, you know, once you're on the gravel. But like, what you're feeling for is that smoothness. You know, well, I mean, sometimes you catch fish off of gravel, but like as a majority, I mean, as a general rule on here, you know, it's hard to get bites off the gravel, and like you certainly catch more fish out the silt. So like, if you try and find the silt, like, you know, you feel like you're fishing a bit better, and like, you know, you're fishing where their food is. I mean, like I say, you know, you can still put your bait on the gravel, but it's only your bait. You know, like if you're putting it in the silt, you're putting it with all their food, like, you know, like all the bloodworm and little snails and stuff like that. It all lives in the silt near the gravel. So, you know, if you've got a bait in there, you certainly feel like you're fishing a bit better. So what I'm going to do now is re-chuck over just past where I've just chucked, and fill the gravel at the back, wait until I pull into the silt, pop the float up, and I'm going to have a rod in the silt, because I'd much rather fish in that silt, and it's definitely worth a go. Alright. Right, we've got a bit of gravel. Let's pop the float up. It should only be shallow. Right, put the reel to the top. Like I said, always keep the rod in the same place. I've got a marker on here, 1 foot long. If you ain't got a marker on your rod, it might be worth putting a little bit of electrical tape on there or something on your marker rod. It's only your marker rod, so it's not like, you know, it's going to matter. But you need to know 1 foot. You know, it's no, you know, like if you go up 12 times and you're going up 12 times at 10 inches, then you know you're quite a lot out, and you know over the course of the depth. So you've got to be paramount, right? And like I said, keeping your rod tip in the same place. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just over 4 foot. That is just. So what I do, I'll pull it back a little bit. Now we're going into the silt. Now we're going into the silt. Now what I do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 foot. So that's 6 foot. So that's a lot better, that is. It goes down another 2 foot, so like, you know, that'll be a nice area that collects all the food in. Definitely worth a bait. We'll get a rod on that. What we'll do now is just chuck a rod behind that, clip up to it so that we know the distance, and like I say, we'll mark us lines out and that, and every time you chuck out to that tall tree in the background and hit the clip, you're going to be bang on the spot.